7-year-old Lucas held out the plain sandwich his mother had packed for him, the crusts trimmed in the way she always did. The stranger, sitting alone on the park bench, a man in a crisp suit, the glint of a gold watch just visible, looked at the sandwich and nodded. Lucas didn't know his name. He didn't know his father, but he felt the right thing to do. Then the man cleared his throat and said 5 simple words, "I'm Noah Bennett." At that moment, the pigeons froze mid-hop, the other children stopped their games, and even the city's gray skyline seemed to hush, because the name Noah Bennett belonged to someone millions thought lost. Lucas Morales shuffled into the schoolyard at sunrise, the crisp November air biting at his cheeks. He smoothed his black hair with a nervous hand, tugged his small gray backpack higher on his shoulders, and looked around at the clusters of children as they spilled from the doorway of Greenwood Elementary School. It was early. Only a few classmates had gathered, but the engine hum of the city beyond the chain-link fence insisted on reminding him that this was no place for slumbering dreams. His mother, Maria, worked nights as a cleaner at the hospital, and the dawn break hustle was his reality. In his lunch bag, an old hand-me-down with a cheerful dinosaur print, he carried the sandwich. 2 slices of white bread, a smear of jam, a thin layer of cheese. Nothing fancy, but tucked inside was also a little note in Maria's precise handwriting. "Have courage today. I love you." Lucas held that note often, especially on days when he worried about fitting in, or about that empty seat at the dinner table at home. Because his father, he believed, must be out there somewhere. Every bedtime, Lucas asked, "Mama, who was my father?" And she'd smile, tuck his blanket and say, "He's your hero. One day you'll meet him." The schoolyard echoed with conversation and sneakers on pavement. Lucas stood slightly apart, glancing toward the metal bench under the tall oak tree at the edge of the yard. He'd picked that bench because it felt quiet, safe, but also because he liked to imagine his father sitting there, welcoming him. Maria had told him once when he asked what his father looked like, tall, kind eyes, eyes that protect. Lucas closed his eyes, imagined such eyes, then opened them and saw a man in a dark suit walking across the yard. He carried a briefcase and wore a face set in firm lines, as though the world weighed heavy on his shoulders. Lucas's heart skittered. Something about the man felt different. The stranger sat on the bench. Lucas watched him place the briefcase beside him, take out a leather notebook and begin to flip pages. Lucas's sandwich now felt heavier than usual. He had eaten some jam already, but the mere act of holding it reminded him of his mother's quiet morning kiss, the creak of the hospital door she walked through, the smell of bleach and coffee at her workplace. Then he looked at the stranger's fancy watch, the polished shoes. He wondered, did this man get a lunch? Did he need one? Maybe not, but still. Lucas rose, took a step toward him. "Excuse me," Lucas said softly. The man looked up. His eyes were sharp, gray-blue. Surprised, Lucas thrust his lunch bag forward. "Would you like this?" For a moment the man seemed caught. Then he nodded with a faint smile. "Thank you," he said, standing and unzipping the bag. "That's very kind of you." Lucas opened the bag and handed him the sandwich. The man accepted it, nodded again, and sat back down. Lucas's chest puffed. He felt something like pride. The man took a bite, closed his eyes, and exhaled. Lucas sat down on the bench next to him. The man glanced at him. He said, "What is your name?" "Lucas. I'm 7. "Nice to meet you, Lucas. I'm Noah Bennett." The world seemed to stop. Lucas's heart beat fast. His mind froze. Because Lucas had heard the name. Noah Bennett, the missing heir of a giant construction company rumored lost after a tragic helicopter crash 10 years ago. He wasn't supposed to be alive, but here he was. After a long moment, Lucas blinked. "Are you really him?" Noah looked at him, the forked light of early morning across his face, and nodded. "Yes." Lucas swallowed. He thought of his father. He thought of himself. He thought of what this meant. Then Noah placed the sandwich bag between them, folded the note Maria had written, which Lucas had slipped into the bag earlier, and peeked inside.
He pulled out the note, unfolded it, and read, "Have courage today. I love you." For the first time in years, Noah's eyes glistened. He said nothing. The pigeons at the tree fluttered, unsettled by the shift. Lucas watched them. The other kids at the school door watched too. Something changed in the air. Noah looked at Lucas. "Your mother is very brave." Lucas nodded, uncertain what to say. He remembered the subtleties of their life. His mother humming while cleaning hospital corridors, the quiet hush when she finished her shift and sank into tired sleep, the way Lucas would sneak into bed after she awoke to help fold laundry. His father was a hero, his mother said so, but what if he had left them? What if he was the hero, but in another world? Noah cleared his throat. "Lucas, would you mind if I asked you something?" Lucas shook his head. "Why did you give me your lunch?" Noah asked, gently. Lucas looked down at his sneakers, a bit scuffed. Because I thought you looked hungry, and sometimes I see you walking by the hospital where my mom works. I thought maybe you didn't get one." Lucas paused. "My mom says sharing is a way of showing love." Noah's gaze softened. "Your mother is right." He stood up, handing back the bag. "Thank you for the lunch, Lucas. And thank you for sharing the note." Lucas felt the world spin a little. The unknown man who could be his father was kind. But there were so many questions. Silence stretched between them. Then the school bell rang. Kids poured in. Noah stood, closed his notebook, placed the briefcase on the bench. He said, "I need to go, but I'd like to talk to your mother if she's willing." Lucas's heart lurched. "Can I come?" he asked. Noah nodded. "Yes, I'd like that." As the children gathered in lines, Lucas turned back to the bench. Something inside him felt like something had opened. A door, a possibility, a promise, and yet an uncertainty hovered. Who was this man really? And where did his mother stand in all this? He ran off toward the school building, glancing back once to see Noah watching him go, the note still in his hand. The wind stirred the oak leaves above, scattering a few yellow ones. It felt like change. Lucas held on to that feeling.
The janitor cart rumbled down the hallway of Greenwood Elementary's older wing as Maria Morales pushed in from the next corridor. She greeted a nurse with a tired smile, changed the light bulb in the overhead fixture, collected the empty wrappers from the lunchroom floor. It was 6:30 in the morning. The hall still smelled of disinfectant and fresh-cut grass from the playground outside. Maria paused for a moment by a window, looking out across the schoolyard where her son, Lucas, would soon arrive. She set her jaw, took a deep breath, and returned to her cart. Being a single mother had meant early mornings, late nights, the constant balancing of hope and bills, of laughter and the small ache of absence. When the shift ended, she would go home, an older apartment 2 blocks from the hospital, where she and Lucas shared a modest 2-room unit. They had little, but Maria made it warm. A small radio by the window, a plant on the windowsill, hand-woven blankets made during light nights before work. She often told Lucas bedtime stories. His father a firefighter, or a deep-sea diver, or a pilot who soared above the clouds and waved hello as he passed. Lucas believed those stories because it felt right to believe. Maria had never told him otherwise. She said, "Your father is a hero in his own way. One day you'll meet him." She paused in the hall for a moment when the front door to the school opened, and there stood the stranger from the bench, a tall man in a dark suit, briefcase in hand, looking somewhat lost in the corridor. Maria watched him approach thoughtfully. He held the note in his hand. She stepped forward. "Good morning," Maria said quietly. She recognized him now from the schoolyard. "Can I help you?" He looked at her, surprised. "Yes. Are you Mrs. Morales?" He pronounced her last name with care. "Yes," I answered, aiming to keep her voice steady though her heart fluttered. "I am." "I'm Noah Bennett," he said. "We met this morning, in the yard. You may not remember." He held up the note. "Your son Lucas gave me this." The handwriting on the note was familiar to Maria.
her own looping script slightly spaced. "And I would like to talk if you are willing." Maria blinked. Her hands gripped the cart. She thought of the lesson in bravery she had told Lucas, kindness even when you don't expect something back. And here she stood, confronted by a man carrying a suitcase, bearing her son's note, calling her by name. She asked, "Why?" Noah opened his briefcase and took out a photo, him, younger, with a young woman, a woman Maria recognized from magazines years ago. He placed it on the cart. The picture Noah with a little boy, perhaps about Lucas's age, slightly older, maybe 9 or 10, smiling in a sunshine-drenched backyard. The woman next to them looked worn, tired, but determined. "That boy is you," Noah said, pointing at the kid in the photo, "and this woman is my sister. She's gone." He pointed at himself. "I'm him. Well, him grown up. I'm the one they called lost." Maria felt the world tilt. She remembered the crash, a helicopter, a business empire, the rumors that Bennett Enterprises collapsed when their heir died. She had taught Lucas the basics of lunch packing, of being kind. She had hoped for something gentle, a father figure, but she never imagined this. She said nothing. Lucas's note rustled in his hand. Noah continued, "I'm looking for my family. I think I have one here." He paused, his voice faltering. "I saw Lucas give me that sandwich and I thought, here is someone with a kind heart. And I thought, maybe your family is connected to mine in a way I don't yet understand." Maria's breath came fast. She recalled the story she had told Lucas. Your father is a hero in his own way. She never said his name. She made no promises. And yet here was a man who might be that father, or might not be. She scanned the hall, pipes overhead, the hum of fluorescent lights, the janitor's cart quietly whirring. She looked at the photo, then back at Noah. She asked, "If you are looking for family, where did you come from? Why now?" Noah swallowed. "I was raised abroad after the accident. My mother died and my sister disappeared. I was presumed dead, but I survived. I found out there were decisions made without me. I learned there was a contract, a will, secrets locked in that briefcase." He tapped it gently. "I've come back to find out who I am. And when I saw Lucas, I felt something. Call it connection, call it instinct, but I'd like to ask, will you help me understand?" Maria hesitated. She thought of her son, the moment on the bench. She thought of the broken sleep she endured, the smile she gave him despite being tired. She thought of the faint whisper of hope she carried for him. She looked at Noah and said, I don't know if your search leads to me, but if you are willing, we can talk." Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. Noah nodded, relieved. "Thank you. I'll meet you at the cafe across the street in 1 hour, if that works." He handed her his card. On it was the name Bennett Enterprises, a phone number, and his email. Maria tucked it into her uniform pocket. She watched him turn and leave with the cart behind him. She exhaled deeply, steadied herself, and rolled her cart down the hallway. Some children in the corridor glanced her way, but nothing outwardly changed. Yet something inward did. In the quiet hum of early morning cleaning, Maria felt a tremor, the possibility of change, the ache of secrets about to surface. Back at home later that day, Lucas bounded in through the narrow front door. Maria hugged him, asked about school, made hot cocoa in a modest chipped mug, and watched him as he sipped. She glanced at the card in her pocket. She did not speak of it yet. Later, after Lucas was asleep, Maria sat at the little kitchen table. She retrieved the card and stared at the name Noah Bennett. She remembered the headlines, "Helicopter crash kills Bennett's heir. family empire in ruin. She remembered telling Lucas his father was a hero, but she had no real details. She opened a small manila envelope she kept under her pillow. Inside were two photographs, one of a young man holding a baby, and the other of that same baby now about 2 years old, smiling shyly at the camera. Maria's eyes filled with tears. She touched the photograph gently. The same baby looked a lot like Lucas. She didn't know how, but she sensed the pattern. The next morning, Maria arrived at the cafe at the appointed time. The place, Cafe Marisol, sat on a quiet corner, cozy with pastel-colored awnings and a smell of cinnamon and fresh bread from the tiny bakery at its back. She chose a small table by the window. The autumn leaves outside danced on the pavement. She ordered tea, set the Bennett card beside her, and waited. She watched the door swing open. Noah stepped in, suit still pressed, but he removed his jacket and sat across from her. He offered her a warm smile. They talked for an hour. He explained the accident, the years abroad, the legal limbo, the effort to contact family members, but something always blocked him. Maria listened. She occasionally sipped her tea, looked out the window at the falling leaves. Lucas's note rested in her coat pocket. She said, "When Lucas gave you lunch, you accepted. That meant something to him." Noah nodded. "It meant something to me." He leaned forward. "I realized that kindness isn't measured by wealth or status, it's measured by intention." He paused, looked at Maria. "My life has been so complicated, but meeting him, meeting Lucas, made me ask, could I be part of something simple again? A family, not a headline." Maria's chest tightened. She asked, "Why now? Why after all these years?" He glanced away. "Because I was living a life that wasn't mine anymore. I had to find the truth before I found peace." He then revealed something else. "Your envelope. I found references in my old files. A woman named Morales was listed in my mother's last journal as someone to contact if one day things changed." Maria's eyes widened. She recognized the name on the photograph. He explained, "I never found her. Until now." Maria's hands trembled slightly. They were crossing tiny thresholds of memory, identity, possibility. The leaves outside darkened, the cafes lighting up. They both stood to go. Noah said, "Tomorrow I'd like to meet Lucas, if that's okay." Maria nodded, holding the card in her hand. She looked at the note in her coat and thought of the bench, the sandwich, the kid, the stranger named Noah. She whispered to herself, "It could be him." She glanced at his watch, time ticking forward. As they parted outside the cafe, the final rays of sunlight cut through the falling leaves. Noah offered his arm, something small and respectful. Maria hesitated, then took it. It felt steady, supportive. The autumn wind brought a swirl of golden leaves. They stood for a moment, silent, and then Noah said, "Thank you, Maria, for being courageous." Maria offered him a smile, though inside she felt both excited and wary, because nothing about this was simple, but everything about it felt alive. The next morning dawned bright and cool. Lucas woke up in his 2-room apartment with the faint hum of the city outside his window. He slid out of bed, tiptoed to his mother's door. She was still sleeping. His earliest memories of her included the soft rise and fall of her breathing after a night shift, the faint scent of hospital soap lingering in the sheets. He brushed his teeth, emptied the kettle, poured a bit of cereal. He kept glancing at the clock, 7:40 a.m. He would catch his bus in 10 minutes, but today he felt light. Unknown to him, his mother had told him last night, "Today someone is going to ask to meet you." But she didn't tell him who. At school, Lucas's heart beat fast. He sat down for breakfast in the classroom, fiddled with the dinosaur-printed lunch bag. The teacher, Ms. Rivera, asked the class to name something kind they'd done that week.
Lucas raised his hand. I gave my lunch to a man who looked like he needed it. The class was quiet for a moment. The man in question, though nobody knew his identity, had become a quiet ripple through the school. Ms. Rivera smiled. That's very generous, Lucas. He blushed and looked at his feet. After the breakfast bell, Lucas headed with the other children to the yard. He went straight for the oak tree bench. He scanned it, empty. Then the door banged open across the courtyard, and Noah stepped out, briefcase in hand, walking toward the bench. Lucas's stomach flipped. He opened the bag, looked inside. He thought, what if he left? But the bench was his destination. Lucas walked slowly, then sat down. Noah sat beside him. The briefcase was next to him. Lucas felt small next to the man's broad shoulders. Good morning, Lucas, Noah said softly. Did you sleep well? Lucas nodded. He swallowed. I'm glad I found that note. Noah tapped the folded paper in his jacket pocket. Would you mind if I showed it to someone else? Your mother? Lucas shook his head. It's okay. Noah unfolded the note, studied the handwriting, then reached into his briefcase and took out a small box. It was a silver locket. He opened it gently. The inside held the picture of a woman, smiling. This is your grandmother, he said, pointing. And she asked me to look out for you. Lucas's eyes widened. Noah closed the locket and handed it to Lucas. Keep this, and if you ever feel alone, open it. Lucas's fingers traced the cool metal. He felt a surge of belonging. The birds overhead chirped in the tree branches. They seemed somehow quieter now, as though they too were listening. Lucas asked, Are you really my father? Noah paused. He looked at Lucas with transparent eyes. I am someone who wants to be your father, but I understand it may take time. Lucas nodded. Okay. Then Noah stood. I'll see you again after school today. Would that be okay? Lucas's chest lifted. Yes. Noah placed the briefcase on the bench and walked away. The day passed in gentle anticipation. Lucas counted the minutes, the seconds between classes dragging yet humming with possibility. At recess, he sat under the oak tree, looked at the locket. He imagined his grandmother smiling, his father waiting. He tried to focus on the game of tag, but kept glancing at the gate, wondering when the man in the suit would return. Finally, the bell rang for dismissal. Lucas ran out. There, by the bench, stood Noah, briefcase again at his side. They walked together to the small ice cream truck outside the school gates. Noah bought a vanilla cone for Lucas and a coffee for himself. They sat on a nearby curb. Lucas licked his ice cream slowly, savoring the cool sweetness. Noah watched him. You know, Noah said, when I was a little older than you, I believed that happiness was something I could buy. He pointed to the van, the briefcase, the city skyline. But happiness turned out to be simpler, like sharing something, like kindness. Lucas looked at him. That sounds nice. He pressed his tongue to the melted edge. I share because I like people to smile. Noah nodded. And you made me smile today, Lucas, and reminded me of something I'd forgotten. Lucas asked, What did you forget? Noah smiled. That I can still choose kindness. He paused and looked at the skyline beyond the ice cream truck. Tall buildings, windows glittering, life moving fast. I hope to catch up with you and your mother this weekend. Maybe we could all go to the park. Lucas's eyes lit up. Saturday arrived, and they met at the park where the sandwich had been given. The oak tree awaited them, its leaves now tinged gold. Noah held the silver locket around his neck. Lucas carried his dinosaur backpack. Maria joined them, wearing her cleaning uniform beneath a light jacket and carrying a thermos of hot chocolate. They settled on a bench under the tree. The path was lined with families, dogs bounding, toddlers chasing bubbles. The sunlight felt crisp. Maria smiled at Noah. She said, Thank you for meeting us. Noah nodded. Thank you for coming. He looked at Lucas. Would you help me pick some chestnuts from the tree over there? Lucas jumped up. They walked to the tree, collected chestnuts, dropped them into a paper bag. Lucas asked question after question. Why did you go away? Did they think you were dead? Did you miss me? Noah answered gently, in age-appropriate words, Yes, I missed my home. I missed the possibility of simple moments like this. Lucas smiled. He felt like the hero was here. During their time together, they built a little routine: lunch, tree shadows, chestnuts, hot chocolate. Maria looked on, sometimes stitching her fingers together, sometimes studying Noah's face as he crouched beside Lucas. She noticed his careful movements around them, the way he paused before speaking, the tremor in his hands when Lucas asked about his grandmother. She realized this wasn't a man stepping into a pre-written role. He was figuring it out, like she had been. They were two people trying to become a family. Weeks passed, and the bond deepened. Lucas asked for small favors. Would Noah read him bedtime stories over video call? He had a lot of travel for Bennett Enterprises business. Noah always agreed. He sent postcards from his trips: a seaside town in Portugal, a mountain lodge in Switzerland, a modern conference hall in Chicago. On each postcard he wrote, "For Lucas, keep being brave and kind." Lucas placed them along the windowsill, next to his plant, and the small globe he'd been gifted at school. At school, Lucas's friends noticed a quiet change. He was more confident, asked questions, volunteered to share snacks, shared his locket with close classmates, the ones he trusted. One day his teacher asked him to bring something that represented courage. Lucas brought the locket and said, "This reminds me that being brave means giving what you have." The class applauded politely. Lucas blushed. He looked at the tree outside and thought of the chestnuts. Meanwhile, Maria met with Noah a few times without Lucas. Quiet lunches, business cafes, short walks. They discussed logistics, a possible internship program at Bennett Enterprises for Maria, cleaning crew supervisory role, therapy sessions for Lucas to help him process the sense of missing fatherhood without making it heavy. Noah said, "I don't want to enter your life and fix everything. I just want to be there." Maria nodded. She trusted him slowly. She saw kindness in his gestures, the silver locket, the chestnuts, the way he asked about Lucas's drawing of rockets and dinosaurs. But one sunny Friday afternoon, a complication arrived. Noah had scheduled a media interview. News of his reappearance was about to break. The local papers had been asking for comment. Maria knew nothing of this when she dropped Lucas off at school and met Noah in the lobby of his office building. The marble floors echoed. Glass walls towered overhead. He looked tense. "They want me to announce something publicly," he said. "They want me to say I'm returning to run Bennett Enterprises." Maria nodded. "And how does that affect us?"
Noah exhaled deeply. "It means, sooner or later, people will know about Lucas and you. I need to ask, are you comfortable with that?" Maria looked at him. She thought of Lucas's shy smile, his wish for a father, his simple kindness. She thought, what happens when the cameras turn up? She said, "I'm not sure yet." Noah nodded. "Take your time." He reached out and placed a hand on her arm, gentle, respectful. "I don't want to push you." Maria sensed the weight of the moment. She took his hand for a moment, then let it go. The hustle of the building lobby faded behind them. That evening, at home, Lucas asked, "Mom, will Daddy be on TV?" Maria paused, then said, "Maybe, but we'll decide together." Lucas looked relieved. He hugged her. They sat on the sofa, hot chocolate in mugs, the silver locket on the table between them. They watched old cartoons and laughed. It was ordinary, warm, wonderful. Yet as the night deepened, Maria couldn't sleep. She remembered when Lucas gave that sandwich. She remembered the moment when the man said his name, Noah Bennett. She realized history was converging, and their ordinary life was shifting.
She recognized the tucked-away photo envelope. She knew that Lucas's father might be this man, or the man might be someone else entirely. But she felt hope, and sometimes hope is enough to carry you forward. At school the next morning, Lucas walked to the bench, locket in his pocket, hope in his eyes. The oak tree's leaves rustled overhead. He looked for Noah, and there he was. They walked together again. Lucas asked, "Are we a family now?" Noah looked at him, considered, and answered, "Yes, we're on our way." Lucas smiled, nodded. They settled on the bench, and chestnuts perched in the bag beside them. The pigeons hopped around, children darted by. But for Lucas, time felt still.
The next week dawned electric. The city buzzed with rumors. Posters of Noah Bennett, once thought missing, now reappearing. Glass towers of Bennett Enterprises shining in the morning sun. Maria and Lucas tried to carry on their routine, but the world around them felt louder. On Monday morning, Lucas dragged his backpack into school, past the oak tree bench, and felt the eyes. Other children whispering, pointing to the fresh newspaper left on a seat. Front page, Noah Bennett returns, the heir who vanished. A photograph of the bench scene appeared, a suited man accepting a sandwich from a little boy. Lucas hovered near the bench, heart pounding. He looked at the photo. There he was, his dinosaur backpack, the sandwich bag. The headline shouted his name in small print. Maria arrived early at the hospital cleaning staff room. Her coworkers crowded around a tablet reading the article. "Do you know him?" one asked about Noah Bennett. Maria shook her head. "He's someone." But inside she felt exposed. She flicked the screen closed, grounded herself. She texted Lucas, "Be brave, I'll see you later." He texted back a dinosaur emoji and a heart. After school, Lucas found Noah waiting by the bench, but the man looked different, tight-jawed, eyes tired. The media vans were parked across the street. Paparazzi lenses peered around corners. Noah said, "I'm sorry, Lucas. I'm afraid this might get messy." Lucas's expression dropped. "Why?" Noah looked away. "Because people are going to ask questions about you, about your mother, about me, and we need to decide how we respond." Lucas felt a knot in his stomach. He hugged the silver locket. The bench's oak leaves swayed overhead as though stirred by the tension. Later that afternoon, Maria received a call from Bennett Enterprises' legal office. They asked for her presence in the high-rise boardroom. She took the subway, clutching her cleaning uniform jacket, her heart pounding. The lobby of the skyscraper gleamed. The receptionist asked for her. She was led into a room filled with sharply suited executives and media relations people. Noah stood at the head of a table. He greeted her with a clasped hand. "Maria, thank you for coming." He introduced her. "These are colleagues who will help us through the next steps." They talked about press releases, photo ops, background checks. Maria sat there in her simple jacket, her hands folded. She felt like she'd stepped into another world. She glimpsed Lucas's notebook in her bag, the drawing he had done of a rocket and dinosaur taking off together. She squeezed it lightly to remember what she was fighting for. One executive said, "We need to announce that Noah Bennett has a son, Lucas, age 7, and that the mother, Maria Morales, is the boy's guardian and possible mother. We require a joint statement, media scheduled for Friday." Maria's breath caught. She felt the oxygen thin. She looked at Noah. He met her gaze. "We'll do this together, but only if you're comfortable." She nodded slowly, though inside she trembled. After the meeting, she exited to find the world flashing, headlines on screens, cameras in taxis, bystanders pointing. She walked slowly to the subway station. She felt like she was caught between her quiet life and a tide. At home that evening, she tried to reassure Lucas, everything will be okay, but she wasn't sure that's true. Friday arrived. The press gathered at the park by the oak tree bench, the same bench where Lucas and Noah had met. The autumn leaves were brighter now, turned gold and red.
Maria brought Lucas and his thermos of hot chocolate. Noah waited near the bench, briefcase in hand, but dress changed, open collar, more relaxed. They sat together, Lucas between them. Cameras flashed, microphones hovered. A reporter asked, "Mr. Bennett, how does it feel to find your son after all these years?" Lucas looked up. Noah took his hand gently and said, "Lucas has reminded me what matters most. Kindness, family, trust." The reporter asked Maria, "Are you the boy's mother?" Maria swallowed and said, "Yes, I am." The camera zoomed in on Lucas, on the three of them. A hush rippled through the crowd. It felt like the leaves paused mid-fall. But then the reversal. A voice rose from the crowd. An investigative journalist stood dramatic. "Mr. Bennett, what about your will, the promises to shareholders, and questions about any agreement you may have made with Mrs. Morales? Is this a PR stunt? Are you the legal father?" Cameras shifted. The facial expressions of the executives behind them stiffened. Noah's face tightened. Maria's hand squeezed Lucas's. Noah answered, "I am currently running forensic verification of the records, but I can say this. Lucas is a bright, kind boy, and we intend to support him, whether legally or personally. Our focus today is him." The journalist hammered, "Will you sign legal adoption papers? Will Mrs. Morales get a role at the company because of this?" The executives glanced at each other. Maria stood. "I don't work for fame. I work because I believe in people." Her voice was quiet but firm. She looked at Lucas. "I'm here for him." Lucas held on to his locket. The autumn wind gusted. The oak tree threw a few leaves across the bench. The bench's surface felt cold beneath their fingers. The media crew drew back, murmuring. After the press conference ended, Noah led them away. He apologized. "That got more intense than I expected." Lucas put his head on his mother's shoulder. Maria kissed his hair. The briefcase, the executive building, the cameras, they felt far away in that moment between mother and son. They walked home in silence, the city's lights blinking on. Maria thought of the path that lay ahead, legal processes, media stories, a child thrust into unfamiliar light. She thought of Lucas's kindness, that sandwich, the bench. She resolved, whatever happened, their foundation would be love and simple moments. She squeezed his hand. That night, Lucas dreamed of racing rockets and dinosaurs under the oak tree. In the dream, the tree glowed gold. The leaves whispered, "Welcome home." He awoke gripping the locket. He found his mother in the kitchen making hot chocolate. "Mom," he said, "will it be okay tomorrow?" Maria turned, offered him a gentle smile. "Yes, Lucas, it will." She sat beside him at the table. He pointed to the leggings of steam rising from the mug. "I gave him lunch because I thought he needed it." Maria nodded. "Yes, and you reminded him that kindness matters. That's more than lunch." Lucas grinned. "Is that why people are looking at us?" Maria nodded. "Yes." Lucas sipped his drink. "I hope they see the kindness, not the cameras." Maria hugged him. "Me too." But the reversal had left a crack. If the world saw the cameras, would they see the heart? If Noah's world of suits and enterprise collided with their world of cleaning carts and lunch bags, which world would hold them together? As she closed the kitchen lights and tucked Lucas to bed, she held that question as she held him.
Snow began to fall gently the next morning as Lucas walked to school, his breath visible in the crisp air. The oak tree at the schoolyard bench bore a dusting of white on its branches. Lucas's backpack was heavier than usual, not just with books, but with the weight of expectation. He cradled his silver locket inside his coat pocket. Inside the classroom, children whispered. Some called him rich kid now. Others asked why his mother worked as a cleaner if his father was the billionaire heir. Lucas's stomach lurched. At recess, he sat near the bench, now covered lightly in fresh snow. He looked at the footprints of birds, the cold steel of the bench. He felt small, worried. He thought of that first sandwich. Had it changed everything?
or had it thrown everything into chaos? After school, Lucas found Noah waiting across the yard. Noah's face looked older, wearier. He handed Lucas a thermos of hot chocolate, steaming despite the cold, and said, "Let's go for a walk." They walked through the snow-white park, trees bare, benches empty. The wind whispered faintly. Lucas asked, "Mom said people might ask about me. Are they going to take me away?" Noah crouched, wiped snow off a seat, sat down, pulled Lucas next to him. He said, "Nothing will take you away from your mother or from me. I promise you that." Lucas swallowed. "But what if they want to split us up?" Noah sighed. "Then I'll fight that. But we should choose what matters. And what matters is you." Lucas nodded, tears pooling in his eyes. He gazed at the locket. He asked, "Why did I give you lunch?" Noah smiled and said, "Because you had the courage to be kind, and kindness knows no wealth." Lucas blinked. The wind nudged a flake onto Noah's shoulder. Noah brushed it off. Lucas giggled. The two walked together, making footprints in the snow. That week, Maria faced meetings that felt like storms. Lawyers, trustees, media reps, all pressing. She found herself in boardrooms where people treated her as a curiosity more than a colleague. She felt vulnerable. She remembered the cleaning cart hallways, the hospital smell of bleach and tired smiles. She wondered, could she survive here? Could she protect Lucas? Noah, too, felt the pressure. Old business rivalries resurfaced, board members whispered about his absence, lawsuits, missing time. The world wanted a strong heir, a tidy story. It didn't care much for kindness and lunches and 7-year-olds. But Noah refused to let the world define Lucas or Maria. He asked the board, "I want to set up a foundation for community schools, inspired by Lucas's act." Some nodding heads, others skeptical, but the idea stayed. Late one night, Maria awoke to her phone vibrating. It was Noah. "We need to talk." She dressed quickly, left Lucas sleeping with the locket on his pillow. She arrived at Noah's apartment, spare, modern, overlooks the city. He greeted her with concern. "A shareholder is suing to challenge the inheritance, claiming I'm unfit." Maria's heart froze. "What does that mean for Lucas and me?" Noah took a deep breath. "It means we may have to step back from the cameras, the public stuff for a while. I can't promise I'll win, but I promise I won't let you two be casualties." Maria reached out and placed a hand on his. "Thank you for not giving up." She paused. "But what if it's too much?" Noah looked at her, eyes tired but steady. "Then we retreat. We come home, we bake pancakes with Lucas, we build forts. We live. We don't let everything else define us." Maria exhaled. They sat quietly, the city lights twinkling below. The next morning, school felt like a micro-world of tension. Lucas carried fresh pancakes. Maria had made them early before his bus, packed in his lunch bag. He offered one to a classmate, who smiled. The teacher observed quietly. The bench outside the classroom door, where he used to wait for Noah, was empty that day. Lucas wondered where his father was. After lunch, the principal asked him to go to the office. Lucas's heart skipped. In the office sat Noah, jacket unbuttoned, relaxed but concerned. He said, "Hi, buddy." Lucas managed a small smile. "I've missed you." Noah crouched to his level. "I've missed you too, but I need to tell you something." Lucas nodded. "We're going off the radar for a while, to protect you." Lucas's face dropped. "Will I still get pancakes?" Noah smiled. "You will, and more, but we'll do it quietly, just our small world." Lucas frowned. Then he nodded. "Okay." After school, Maria met Noah outside the schoolyard. The snow had melted somewhat, leaving muddy tracks. She said quietly, "Are we okay?" Noah glanced toward the other parents, the teachers, the watchers. He said, "We will be. Things will change, but our core will stay. You, Lucas, me." Maria said, "Promise?" He nodded. placed his hand over hers. I promise. Weeks passed in quieter mode. The media story faded. The shareholder challenge took time. Meanwhile, the small rituals flourished. Saturday mornings became pancake breakfasts at the apartment kitchen. Banana slices, maple syrup, pancakes stacked high. Lucas giggled as syrup dripped on his plate. Noah poured hot cocoa. Maria served them. They sat around the small table full of steam, laughter, crumbs. The oak tree bench still waited at school, but now it symbolized something else, the starting point of kindness and connection. One evening, Lucas drew a picture of 3 figures under a golden tree. He showed it to his parents. Maria and Noah examined it. Noah said, "That tree looks like the one at your school." Lucas nodded. "That's our tree now." Maria hugged him. "Yes, it is." And in that moment, the outside world with its suits and press receded further. Finally, the legal challenge concluded. The board announced that Bennett Enterprises would be restructured, the foundation suspended temporarily, but the personal commitment remained. In a private meeting, the lawyer told Noah he met the claimant's minimum requirements, and the litigation settled quietly. Noah exhaled deeply. He called Maria. "It's done." She burst into tears of relief. They shared the news with Lucas while making pancakes. Lucas cheered. They stacked 5 pancakes each. At the park, under the oak tree, now bare of leaves but strong, they held a small private picnic. Hot chocolate, chestnuts, pancakes. The pigeons hopped. The city life hummed at a distance. Noah took the silver locket and held it in front of Lucas. He said, "This is for you, Lucas, for here, for now." Lucas took it, placed it around his neck. He felt the metal, felt the picture of his grandmother. He looked at his mother. He looked at Noah. He said, "I love you both." They hugged. They held each other. Maria said, "You know what happens next?" Lucas shook his head. She smiled. "We make each other stronger, and we build our story, not one the world writes for us." Noah said, "Yes." He looked at the bench. "And maybe one day we'll invite the world, but for now, this is ours." The oak tree stood tall, its trunk etched by seasons, its branches reaching. It was their anchor. In the days that followed, Lucas continued to bring kindness to the world, sharing lunches, helping classmates, offering the extra pancake at home to a friend in need. Maria continued her cleaning job, but now with a new spark in her step. They weren't invisible anymore. Noah continued his meetings, but car rides home often passed through the park, the bench, the tree. He and Lucas built model rockets together in the garage, another symbol of hope and liftoff. One crisp morning, Lucas asked, "Mom, when I grow up, can I be a hero like you said Dad would be?" Maria looked at him, then at Noah. Noah kneeled beside him. "You are already a hero, Lucas. Being kind is heroic." Lucas smiled, chest full. He looked at the locket. It glinted in the morning sun. And so they stood, mother, son, father figure. On the park path, a gentle family bound by choice and simple acts of love. The world might have watched, might have questioned, might have defined them, but they defined themselves. Because kindness began with one lunch. It grew into trust, it became family. And the oak tree bench remained their symbol, a place where something remarkable quietly began.
Years later, Lucas, now 12, walked past the oak tree bench with his mother and father. He glanced at the silver locket around his neck and the back of his pocket where a small fortune card from Bennett Enterprises once lay. He carried neither wealth nor fame, but he carried something deeper. The memory of the sandwich, the moment he offered it, the man who said the name Noah Bennett. He felt the tree's bark under his palm as he touched it. His parents stood behind him, smiling. He turned and said, "Mom, Dad, thank you." They hugged. The city skyline stretched behind them, bustling, bright. But they paused in that moment, quiet, anchored, because kindness had lifted them all. And in that little family, the hero wasn't a suit or a headline. The hero was a boy who gave his lunch and changed a life.